welcome to Two Bees and a Pod. We're excited about this one. It's been a long time in the making. This gentleman is a savage, pretty much. He's smirking right now, but he knows it. He's not going to say it, but he's a Army veteran, 82nd Airborne. He's done one tour official and a second tour unofficial that we're going to talk about today. So this guy is a very, very rare breed. He, after 9/11, goes straight into the Army, goes straight into combat. 82nd Airborne, if you didn't know, is one of the craziest positions in the Army, right? It's basically you're guaranteed combat. He knew that. And then,
hey, these are your words.
There's
going to be some soldiers out there being like, this motherfucker told them some bullshit.
I'm trying to give an introduction.
I'm sorry.
And he 10 years later decides, you know what? I want to go back and I want to have some more combat, which is I've never heard before, and I'm super excited to tell this story and have him tell the story firsthand. But welcome to the show, Ken Wyrsch. Again, 82nd Airborne, Army veteran, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, but the main thing that I want to talk about first is he got a corporate job making very good money in the Bay Area, left it all to go fight ISIS straight up. And tell us about how that even happened, because I would never do that. Even going in the Army and going to 82nd Airborne, that is savage enough. But then 12 years later, I'm like, I want to get some more combat experience. Like how does that enter your mind? I've never heard anything like that. And tell me how that happened.
So just to clarify, when the first time I tried to go back was when ISIS rolled right in out of Syria, right? They came rolling in, took Iraq by storm immediately, right? And at this point in time, our soldiers, Marines, airmen, etc., were told not to. They just don't fight. Like they basically had to put up their guns. So they were just more of a presence than a fighting force. And ISIS took advantage of that. And the Iraqis dropped their guns and hid, ran, got out of their uniforms. And then so I immediately got online and started trying to make contacts over there. So they rolled until they got to the Kurdish area of Iraq, right? And the only ones that actually stood their ground and fought were the Kurds, the Peshmerga, right? So that's where I started, right? I did that in 2014. And like I said, just to clarify, it wasn't so much to go and get more combat, so much as it was something that I truly believed that I lost a lot of good friends, and they spent a lot of time in Iraq trying to give them their country. And then all it took was a little bit of resistance, and the motherfuckers dropped their shit and ran. So they lost Iraq. As much as they did to gain it, they lost it that quick. So that to me was, I felt like I owed it to them because they couldn't fight. So I felt like I owed it to them to go back and do something to try to help secure their country. From on top of that, probably humanity's fucking worst enemy. I mean, I probably experienced in my lifetime. 2002, I confronted the Taliban or whatever. They were a different breed, Al Qaeda and whatnot, but ISIS made them look like Girl Scouts as far as cruelty.
Yeah.
I felt like the Taliban, they had. I felt like they knew what they were fighting for. They're all on the same page. They had their belief structure and their system. So just like we have ours, right? But ISIS was like, bro, this is not a teach your own situation, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, 2014, it happened, and that's when I started making contacts. And then I'm not sure how deep you want me to get into it, but I got picked up by the Department of Homeland Security, leaving to go there. One-way ticket to Iraq turned out to raise that red flag, right?
Well, we want you to get as detailed as you want.
We want to get balls deep into this story. We don't want to get shallow, all right? We want to go full shaft, all right?
Home run. We want to get all up in there.
We want to cream pie this story. Let's go for it.
Awesome.
His
Let's do
eyes
it,
just
then.
got bright. I was like, wow.
It's like, wait, I
He
can
said
say these
cream
things?
puff.
Oh my gosh, we don't have to just be serious on this thing.
Yeah, I love it.
No,
I love
listen,
it.
you're talking about a serious subject. Obviously,
No,
we're gonna
it's
have a little
cool.
fun with
It's
it, but.
cool.
But like, yeah, so I mean, that's interesting. So basically, what you're saying is you're all about the Taliban. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Yo,
that you love the
super
Taliban.
Duper into Taliban.
No, but you're saying just yeah.
I went to the tryouts, but I didn't fuck goats well enough.
That is, I think, the major thing you need to do there, right? Is
Right.
like, first of all, like get a goat to fall in love with you. Isn't that like rule number one? Yeah, but
Ideally.
no, but I mean that's amazing to me that like there is a lesser of two evils. Obviously, you're talking about just the cruelty and what you saw there. But yeah, ISIS really was this different force, right? I mean, they were. Like I remember reading the reports, and obviously I'm not involved in the military, so I'm not all familiar with who's fighting who and when and all that stuff. But I mean, it just seemed like you said, Iraq basically was just sort of like, hey, we're getting kind of tired of running this country. If you guys just want to go ahead and take over, go ahead. And so you're seeing that you need to help, and you're talking about how you're talking to some contacts out there. Are you talking about contacts in the American army, or are you talking about?
So I started with my friends that were still in, just finding out who was defending the country still.
Yeah.
And I had some friends at this point. Just do more.
Yeah, you're good.
I had some friends at this point that were in some pretty high level units or whatever, and they had their ear to the street over there, and they all said don't. First of all, like, this is not a good idea, dude, and it's as bad as the news is making it sound, and as powerful as they are making them out to be. It's still ain't shit. Like, these people, like, obviously we know they mean business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially at this point, but they were organized, they were brutal, and they would stop at nothing. And at this point, there were very iffy forces fighting back, right? And the Peshmerga were the ones that drew the line, and still they stand up for their region. It's not even considered a country if you asked Iraq or Turkey, Syria, Iran even. It's like all that little pocket right in between. But the Peshmerga, the Kurds, they stood their ground, and that was what it came down to. And I was able to, with the combination of the news, social media, and my friends, actually end up getting a hold of someone who was going over there. It was a connection on connection on connection. He was from the Kurdistan, right? His family was out there, so he was going and doing his own little trip, and so I was just like trying to ride his coattail if I could. And through that, I ended up making more contacts, and to the point where I had met someone who had successfully made it over there. He was in Syria, right? And I was like, dude, he already made it. He's English. I mean, he speaks English, so I'm going to go ahead and pick his brain. And he goes, dude, I'll help you out as much as you want, but I want you to do me a huge favor. I want you to reach out. He's like, I'm being contacted like crazy through the media. There was this one guy, he's doing a documentary, and I think it would be great for the awareness raising if you spoke to him and wrote out with him. He goes, I will get you squared away. I just would like for you to connect with him. I think it'll be great for our movement and our cause, right? Awareness, right?
Yeah.
So I reached out to this guy, Chris Livesay, right? He works for like ABC. He's like a full-on anchor, news anchor, but journalist, news guy, whatever the hell you want to call it. And but he was also doing a documentary, like freelanced. He got funding and whatever. The guy that ends up being like, he's just an amazing dude. He's a person I consider a friend. But that was just through the whole. So at this point, he was kind of like tagging along. So he flew out, met with me. I mean, he met my parents. He met Andrew, my buddy that went with me over there. And so I bought a ticket to Iraq.
This is the first time.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know shit out there. He hadn't even visited yet. He was going to film us going off, and then he was going, at that point, once we made it out there, he was going to, figure, what he was going to do, basically use us as his wedge in, because we had already made the contacts. Again, 2014, right? Mm-hmm. So we buy a one-way ticket to Iraq. Right.
No red flags.
No red flags. But see, the thing is
Spring break.
I had my DD240. I was going to get that shirt, man.
Looking for some real estate property out there. Are they looking to
It's
settle
super
down?
fucking cheap right now. So I had my plan, but again, it's like I knew I was a veteran. I brought my DD214, all my other shit, right? I figured I'd get some resistance. I didn't know I'd get all the resistance, right? So they followed us into SFO, San Francisco Airport, right, with the cameras and whatever. I'm like, this couldn't be good. But at the same time, we got on our first leg, which was from there to Dallas, Texas. And then from Dallas, Texas, that was where we took the long leg from Qatar Airlines, I guess. And then we're waiting in line, and up, you kind of see a mob of dudes walking towards us. It's something you can't miss. Half of them are wearing uniforms. Other half are plain clothes with their little badge on their little hip or whatever. And then, they had honed in on me and my buddy Andrew. And they were coming for us. So we made sure, because we figured we'd get some sort of resistance. We made sure to show up extra early just in case, right? So up they walk, and we have our carry-ons. We have giant check bags each. So we figured it already made it on the plane. We're waiting in line. These motherfuckers waited till the last minute. I think they knew what they were doing. They walk up. They're like, hey, you guys need to come with us. They took us in a back room. They were cool. And they said, we have an idea of what you're doing. It's not illegal for you to travel to Iraq. But right now, ISIS is recruiting heavily from the West. So we have to vet everyone leaving and make sure also you guys understand the risks as American citizens. Okay. So they take us in the back room. They're like, they're telling us all this, but then in wheels this cart with our bags just fucking gutted, right? And it's like, well, how the fuck are we going to make it on the plane now at this point? But it turned out they had no intention on letting us do this. They're like, so to take certain material, like Kevlar vest with the IBA, like the body armor and shit. Yeah. You need basically permission slip through the Department of Commerce. Fuck, I don't know. It's like.
Did you know that?
I had no
idea.
fucking. Well, had I known, I'd have done it properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, too, it's the Middle East. You know how easy shit is to get. You can get anything you want there. So I figured worst comes to worst, but it's always nice to have your own gear to know what you got, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, you're not allowed to take this unless you have the fucking letter. So we took it out, and I had this. It's like an IR, like an attachment to like AK rails, right? I'm just trying to make this simple, right? Yeah. So it shoots a little beam, so you can see it with night vision. I had night vision. I knew, but you check it. You don't think anything's really going to happen. Well, they're like, all this shit needs to be okayed. You can't bring it. It's for your safety. So we're going to go ahead and take your fucking plates.
For your safety.
Yeah, right. And the thing that gives you the advantage, the ability to see at night, because in case it ends up in the wrong hands. It's like, okay, so if I get killed, they take it. Thanks for looking out for my safety. I appreciate that. Right? Yeah. But they're like, but we can't tell you can't go. So I'm like, well, at this point now, it took so long. And our bags are extra light now. But they're like, the flight had left. And this one particular flight leaves once a day at like 7 p.m. say. So if we were going to get back on the plane, we needed to make sure that it was the next day.
Yeah, it's not like Southwest. They're not having a flight every hour to Qatar.
LA to SFO, yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what they had us do. They basically like, we can't tell you not to go, but we recommend you turn around and go back home. They didn't think we'd camp out in the airport, wait 24 hours, and do it again. We did. Up they walk again, but they're like laughing. Yeah. But there's one particular guy there in that group that wasn't in the group the day before. He was in a suit, and you could just tell this one meant business or whatever. They did the same thing. They're like, we already know it's in your bag, so they took us in the back room. They're like, we already know it's in your bag, so we're not going to delay you. And I was telling them, like, you're trying to delay us, but miss our flight again. Like, how many times are you going to do this? We're going. And then the guys are talking like, look, we respect what you're doing. We know what side you're on. We saw everything, but like we were told to try to talk you out of it one last time. Yeah. And then they're like, all right, cool. So they turn out, walk out. They just hold on real quick, stand by. They left. And then I hear, the fuck they are. They're like, I hear like a little muffled talking. And then it was, the fuck they are. And in storms the dude with the suit who I hadn't spoken to yet. Yeah. Walks in. He puts his hand out to Andrew. My buddy goes, give me your documentation. So Andrew was like, it's a little spooked. He goes, yep. And he gives them his passport and the ticket. And then he reaches over to me. He's like, your passport? No, he goes, your documentation. So I give him my ticket, but I didn't give him my passport. He's like, my passport? And I go, it's my passport. He goes, the fuck it is. I didn't know that, but the passport is basically a privilege. The government owns that shit. Right?
Did he announce who he was, or did he?
Nope.
So you shouldn't give him anything at this point.
Yeah, but he rolled up with the people, and at this point, that's what he led with. He goes, the United States government will be pursuing charges, illegally transporting blah, blah, blah material without proper whatever. So we hear we're going to be pursuing charges, and we're like, well, fuck, as long as you don't take me to jail, take the shit.
Yeah.
So, dude, they took our passport, they sent us on our way, and that's why that was end of 2014, and then when we left, it was beginning of 2016, so it was a little over a year. They gave us back our passport. Really long story short, they transferred Department of Homeland Security from Dallas to San Francisco, and they did a coordinated knock on my door and my buddy's door at the same time, and they gave us our shit back. And as soon as I got it back, I went inside, and there was like...
Hold on. What did they say to you during this time? Like, why did they take your passport? Did they say, we're going to pursue charges if you go again? Like, what happened in that interaction?
So, totally different guys, of course. And
what guys is this?
So this Department of Homeland Security, they transferred it from Dallas to San Francisco.
And you said you saw them, you were walking your dog, and you
I pulled
sense
up,
something.
And so that was on 2nd Avenue. 3 blocks back, there was a car parked as I'm driving up. Mind you, it's a busy street, but they're parked on all sides. And I'm driving up, and there's 2 dudes sitting in a car, like obviously side by side, and clean cut in a white Taurus, right? And then I'm driving by him. I don't know why. It was a spooky, just eerie feeling. Like I just felt like I was being watched, but I felt like that all day, just randomly. The timing was crazy. I'm not trying to say I have a sixth sense or anything, but it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then they're far enough away from my house so that when I pull up in my driveway, I get out, and now the back of their car is facing my house. And again, it's like 3 blocks away. I probably put it at 200 meters ish. So I can't see in the back of their car. It's tinted. And I get out of my car, and I'm there at the dead end, and I go like this. I'm in the middle of the street waving. And I figured if it was, in fact, someone that was there for me, they would get out and be like, I got me.
Yeah.
Right? Not what happened. So I'm sitting there waving in the middle of the street, and nothing happens. And now I'm just sitting there in the middle of the fucking street waving like a fucking lunatic. So...
Turns out it's just 2 guys smoking crack. We're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, dude. And
is he looking?
You know the dead end of 2nd Avenue. Kids go there.
Mattio.
Yeah.
Downtown.
That's right. And
Peninsula, bitch.
We got. I got out. I'm like, I just felt silly at this point. I went inside my house feeling like a fucking idiot. Start making dinner. 15 minutes in, there's a knock on my door. I open the door, and they're like, ah. They're like, how'd you know? It's like, I don't know. Yeah. But also, you're 2 dudes, grown adult men, sitting in, like, none of your guys' heads were buried in each other's laps. So,
yeah.
They did the coordinated knock. I got in. They gave me back my passport. It's like, we just needed to check. They sold it as we couldn't take any chances. A, we're looking out for our citizens. B, we could not confirm that you weren't, in fact, being recruited by ISIS, because ISIS was taking motherfuckers from the West. Like, all over. And then women were going over there and offering their freaking bodies as child bearers and shit. Oh yeah.
As they should.
Yeah, right.
What else are they going to offer?
Dude.
Like, seriously.
Yeah. So, to your point.
Just kidding, women.
Yeah,
just
right.
kidding. You have so much to offer society in general. Just your strength.
We can't get canceled already before we even
Your
make
strength.
it.
If there was anyone that was going to pull it off.
This is gonna come with like 5 years later. And be like, did you hear what he said about women?
Yeah, right.
Right.
That
and just me
misogynist.
sitting this far away from him. If things are this bad now, imagine how it's going to be next week.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
In 5 years.
It's going to get worse. Yeah.
Can't even say woman anymore.
But anyway, so some sluts went over there, offered up their vagines to ISIS.
So obviously they were their own entity, but they were just making sure that we weren't part of that.
Yeah.
And then also they were using that as a loophole to stop us. But they didn't pursue charges. They give us back shit. They actually said, hey, look, we respect what you were trying to do. God knows we would love to go over there and schwack some of those motherfuckers too, right? But they're like, just take it as a sign, but here's your shit back. And I go inside, and Andrew's shorter winded than I am, so his discussion with them was much quicker. I go inside and I look up my phone, and I had like a bunch of missed calls from him. Like, dude, they did a fucking coordinated knock. They waited till it was the exact same time. And so he's like, so what's the plan? I'm like, man, I did honestly. I felt discouraged at this point, just going through all that shit. But I'm like, dude, I'm down. And then I think something happened. One particular attack ISIS did, like right after that, we're like, fuck this. We're saying fuck this, and I get a call from Chris Livesay, the dude who the documentary guy.
Okay.
Right? It was all like at once. And I get this call, and he's like, dude, he's fucking fuming on the line. You see what they fucking did this time? I think it might have been one of the attacks in Paris or something like that, or whatever. I don't know. And I'm like, yeah. And I was actually just speaking to Andrew about this. He goes, so what are you guys going to do? And I'm like, well, we're down to try again. He goes, I'm glad you said that, because since I had seen you last, first of all, he had already been back to Syria, been to Iraq. He made hella contacts. He made contacts with like their generals. There were different sects of the Peshmerga, and he had met, I think it was 4 separate base heads, so like generals, base head. So he's like, dude, I have your pick. I have an interpreter. I have armed security. Like, we can actually take you in. All the risk that you run will be the airport again. He goes, but I've also found a way for you to get over there. He goes, you buy a round trip ticket to Sweden. When you get to Sweden, you throw out that last leg and on the spot buy a trip to Iraq. It was Erbil or Salmanaya, one or the other. And then Soli. So yeah, we flew into Soli. So then I'm like, bat, let's do it. I put in, so then now I got to deal with work, right? Ideally, in a perfect world, what I'm thinking is I go to Iraq, I get some. I help do my best to help secure that region for them again,
For free, by the way.
For free, right.
Yeah.
Like, I assumed the worst. Like, I figured I'd have to buy my own gun and some black market bullshit. Probably feed myself, do that whole thing. So I was ready for it. But at the same time, also, like, it was very likely that I was going to be gone too long. But the thing was I had like 2.5 months of sick days. And I walked in.
What a way to spend
it,
right? Because I think you called me like, I'm going on vacation. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't talk about it now.
Right.
And I'm like, this is so sketch.
Right.
What the hell is he up to?
Yeah, I'm going backpacking.
So you go to your corporate job. We'll just say corporate job.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And what do you say to them?
So
how do you start that conversation?
So
I'm going to go over to Syria and fight ISIS.
So we're very close. We're very close at my
Sure.
at my job. We're it's a family, man. Love my bosses, love my coworkers. I walked in and they had known that I was trying to do this. So I had already had this discussion. But it was kind of off the table. It had been off the table for over a year now. And I walked in and I sat down. I'm like, hey, they gave me my passport back. And my boss goes, nope. Sorry, he's one of the many bosses. He's like, nope, not doing it. He goes, I love you too much to sign my name on this thing, and then you don't come back. I signed it. I okayed it. You're not getting it from me. And I'm like, dude, don't make me say it. Like, I'm going over there. He's like, don't say it. I'm like, dude, like I told him, I will quit. I'm doing this. I don't want to quit. I will have people cover down on my jobs while I'm gone. And he's like, well, if that's the way it's going to be, he goes, I'll have one of the other supervisors sign it because I'm not going to do it. So he did. He had another one do it. And I burned all my sick days. They're like, as long as you get back on time, it shouldn't be an issue. I didn't get back on time. That's a whole nother part of the story that I'll just graze over. But when I got back, HR had noticed that I wasn't turning in any time cards. So it was like, I couldn't put in sick days, right? But they couldn't get a hold of me. It was like part of the traveling and stuff. So I almost lost my job, and it was actually the same supervisors that they were trying to cover for me. Oh, we're working on it, and he's been having issues. So they actually ended up saving my job at the end. So we did the Sweden thing. We got there, threw out our last leg, and then it was great. This fucking the documentarian.
Yeah.
Chris started. He took us. He's like, we're gonna make introductions, but we're gonna take you to the best place last. Like, we have a feeling we know which one you're gonna do.
Is that out right now? The documentary?
No.
Oh, okay.
Dude.
And are we allowed to say what the name of it's going to be?
So when you do those documentaries, they have different guys that do different things. You have a cameraman, right? And then you have a person who edits everything, and then also people that help you form the documentary. He was just the head, and he was the guy, right? He was the face. So he contracted. He had a famous, I wish I knew this motherfucker's name so I could just blast his ass right now, but he was one of the guys that was also, he had done a ton of war documentaries. He had been to the craziest places. And so he was advising to get him off the ground. He had never done this before. But he was also filming. So when it came time to get everything together, Chris is like, hey, I need all the stuff, like all the footage, not just the parts. He goes, how much are you going to give me? And he shook him down. Yeah. He's like, it was shot on my camera, even though he signed a waiver saying whatever's on that motherfucker. So, dude, shady as fuck, right? And then it came to the point where he's like, well, what if I want to start my own fucking documentary? And he was shaking him down. And you'd think, dude, he's a journalist and all this other shit, that he would be a little bit more professional, but holy fucking shit, dude. Yeah. So it hit a point where there was like going to be, he was going to try to sue if he did put it out because it's his footage. There was something, I don't know how it goes, but it ended up hitting a fucking brick wall. And he was at the time with, we'll say, I don't know, call it NBC or something like that. And then I think he got picked up for a higher level journalism job. He was actually a reporter at this point for CBS. So he actually sold the idea to CBS. And then, because he told them what they had done in the past, and they were interested. So maybe one day it'll come out.
Okay.
It was fun, man. So they drove us around. And
so tell us about that flight from Sweden. What was that like? You got to be the only two Americans, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was Sweden in the winter. So Sweden in the winter sucks. Like there's just no tourism and shit. It's
and
like
how many
dark
people
early.
are going to Iraq from Sweden?
No, none.
Or going in general?
Well,
you went to Syria.
So no, I went to Iraq.
Iraq,
yeah.
Okay.
But there was a bunch of people. So by this time, there was more people out there like me, or us, but not many, right? There was a bunch in Syria, but they took us to 3. I think that we skipped the 4th base. At the first one, there was like 3 Americans. The second one, like 4 Americans. And then, but you could tell as they were progressively introducing us to these places, they got better and better. And it's like, well, let's see what this third one is. Third one's that ends up being the Kurdish Peshmerga commandos, like their version of the special forces. These dudes are in uniform, they're outfitted.
You keep saying Peshmerga.
Peshmerga is
what
the name
that?
of the military group that are the Kurds, right?
Got it.
So they're the Kurdish warriors, right?
Okay, and then are they the special forces, or that's just the?
So the Peshmerga is the name of their military.
Got it.
Right. The unit, like where they don't have like an Army, Air Force, Marines. It's just the Peshmerga, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have different units, different groups of people, and they all call themselves their own names. But these were the commandos or whatever. Yeah. And there are, as far as the details and shit, there's kind of a limited amount I can really say. But they were being used to do what they were doing either way, and they had some help, right? They were an amazing tool, but the last place we went, it was actually Chemical Ali, one of the how they had the cards when we invaded Iraq or whatever, like this guy's a king of spades or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. This guy was one of the top people, but they had, it was in Kirkuk, and they took his compound and made it a base. So we were staying in that thing. Wow. We had amazing funding, weaponry that, pretty fucking tight, dude. And then the guys were cool. Plus, when we got there, the only people they were allowing in were veterans with combat experience. There was only one person there that had not. But he kind of bought his way in. He's a great fucking dude. And he was like super generous with everything. So it would have been stupid to pass on the guy. Plus, he was a fucking savage. Mm-hmm. But dude, Britain, Japan, New Zealand, like Westerners with backgrounds that far back. A lot of these people moved when they got out of the military or whatever, but dude, the greatest walks of life, amazing chemistry. I mean, imagine it probably attracts the same kind of person, right?
Well, how many guys were at that base? So they're all guys with combat experience.
So
special forces, I'm sure.
We were given a portion of that base. We were given our own area. There was, at any given time, no more than 8 Westerners. Guys would leave, guys would come back. And then, like I said, there were 8 at the last one, call it 4 at the one before that, and then like 3 at the one before that. And the first one was like a shack outside of another military base. They were just like perched on a main road. They basically used them as fucking security. They were not being utilized. The second one was a little better, underfunded, but they made do. Great people. And then the last one, like I said, it was squared the fuck away, right? It was so we're like, we choose this, right? But we had to be approved, right? So they left us, the documentary people. They left us for the night. Then we talked shit, fucked around with some weapons, shot a little bit. That's actually where Ollie was. That last base, and I actually have a picture when I first met him. He just gets on his back, and
so Ollie is
the dog I brought back from Iraq. That was the one that went viral.
Okay, we'll talk about that later, but that's a super cool story. So you're over there because I remember you saying when you first went over there, they put you in like a medical type situation. You're like, no, I don't want to go here. I want to have some combat.
Good memory. Good memory. So that was when I told you they took us to the second. So they took us to the first one that was just a shack on the side of the road outside of a base. The second one, it was in a more, it was a greener part of the country. It was beautiful. And they had their own base, but it was just like super hard to get. Like the Peshmerga that I ended up with on the third one, they were getting regular shipments of ammo and weapons and just insane stuff from all over NATO, right? The second one, they served a more medical role, which as long as I'm helping, that's all I wanted to do, right?
But you want combat. You're not trying to stitch people up.
Well, see, I mean, if that was what I knew how to do, get in where you fit in, right? And in this particular case, I just, I got CLS, like combat lifesaver in the military, which was a billion years ago. I don't remember, like a sucking chest wound, I could help you out, CPR or whatever, and maybe a tourniquet. But like, man, I'm not going to prep you to get on a fucking evac. Like, I just don't know how to do that. And I mean, I'm not going to say I'm the greatest fucking warrior on earth, but I remember some shit. We were trained enough for it to hang on. It's not rocket science, but it's better than nothing. I felt like I provided a better use but yeah, the second one, they operated outside the front line as a medical facility. So if someone goes down, they get driven out to this little medic tent, and then they get patched up there before they're sent to the hospital and shit, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Good memory.
So you go to the third place when you're over there, and that's like the legit all former guys with combat special forces from all over the world.
So special forces were the Peshmerga. The group we were attached to, they were the Kurdish special forces.
No, but I mean the guys you were with.
So the guys I was with, the Westerners, there were no special forces guys. They were all just like
combat experience,
infantry, right? But that's why, I mean, there might have been SF groups nearby that were actually legitimate SF. That's why I was saying, like, there's only so much we could talk about there. But
and
but they were a thing. They weren't with us.
And tell us about average. And how many days total were you over there? How many months? Like or is that another thing?
No. So I think it ended up being just over 2.5 months.
Okay.
Roughly, right? And I only remember this because I ran out of sick days, right?
And so what is the average day over there at the third camp? Like what you can say?
Man. So we were considered a QRF, like a quick reaction force, right? But see, the line had already been drawn in the sand by the Peshmerga. ISIS knew that if they wanted to go any further, they'd have to fight their way through the Peshmerga. Because again, remember, Iraqi military threw all their shit down and ran away. They ended up getting killed anyways. So they were just holding a line. And during this time, they took back a portion of Iraq that they have always said is theirs. So because they actually fought for what they kept, and then they took some. And ISIS owned the rest of Iraq. So Iraq ended up, once we squared them away and got rid of most of ISIS, like their general presence, Iraq's like, all right, give us our land back now. Like the shit that the fucking Peshmerga had fought for, secured, and maintained. Now they want to put their uniform back on and be like, give it back to us. But then they had the full backing of the United States government, so they had to go back to what they had before. And that's how my name got leaked, and I ended up with a fucking bounty on my head.
Oh.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So with your day to day, I was on that base, and it was QRF, quick reaction force. So anytime some shit would happen with surrounding areas, regular trips to the line. There's, like I said, there's berms and stuff, and they had their line. ISIS had their line.
And could you see ISIS?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got to be a.
Yeah,
Wow.
I got some cool, like, I got to dig, but like they had their flag, so their little area and shit. I never got a chance to get an ISIS flag. That'd been cool. But everyone I had been with, the guys that had been there for a while, they had already secured their own. It's fucking, it's surreal to see, man. Especially when you put that much effort into being in a spot and you, sister, dude. You know.
So you're on call pretty much for some shit that goes down.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, they're trying to breach this line,
Right.
and you come out there, and I don't know if I'm supposed to ask this or we can edit out, but how much combat was it? A daily thing?
No.
Or was it a okay?
No, so it was sporadic, and even then, we didn't get involved. We did take areas, but there were areas that were already secured. It's like, holy shit, these people have a presence here. Like, that's not supposed to happen. And then so we roll out and do whatever to, like, make sure that the area was secured. But for, like, all in all, ISIS they weren't doing the black pajama waving flags like it showed on freaking, they were doing we're going to live amongst the civilians and hide. Fucking cowards, dude. Cowards. Like, they utilized the bully tactic, the violence in mass, but, like, when confronted, they fight, man. But, like, my experience wasn't like this is fucking crazy, like fucking urban warfare and mount shit. And it was like, they're just cowards. Like when we cuff them or whatever and throw them in the back. So if they got cuffed and thrown in the back of the truck, they would, we're not ISIS. They're not so proud of their fucking shit and their caliphate anymore. Right. So, like, situations like that. But dude, most days it was basically sit around waiting to happen. It had been like waiting on a forward observation base in Afghanistan until the next thing happens. So we work out all day long, great dudes. We train, we did all our own training and stuff like that. And then wait for the next thing. It was basically to hold and maintain the border. Right. And we did have help from, allied forces and shit like that.
So your first trip, your first combat experience with the 82nd Airborne, when you compare what you did in 2016, was it similar?
No.
Or different? Yeah.
No.
So if you guys don't know, 82nd Airborne, you're going to have combat experience pretty much if you're going to go out there. You're the first of the line, correct? If you want to explain more what the 82nd Airborne is.
82nd Airborne, it is conventional Army. It's like people, it's not a special operations force or anything like that. It's an infantry unit that their special skill, right, is paratrooping, right? They can, if ever needed to, they could parachute in. You guys saw Band of Brothers. They need something dropped behind lines while we assault from here. It's idea. I mean, the 2nd Airborne Specialties, airport seizure. But, like, dude, you're not guaranteed. And I appreciate the badassedness of what you said, but you're not guaranteed combat. But during GWAT, Global War on Terror, if you're with the 82nd Airborne and you didn't deploy, then you did something. Either lucky or fucked up. But it was 6 months on, 6 months off, 6 months on. And then it got to a point where I think these tours got 18 months for the Army. Yeah. Wow. They'd get like little mid-tour breaks or whatever. But, like...
So that was more intense than what you experienced in 2016. It's just different.
It was so different, man. It was so different. Afghanistan and Iraq, and then doing it with the conventional military, and then the Kurds. We didn't have close air support in Iraq. So if ever we needed it, we couldn't just be like, yo, and then someone come by with, a Warthog or some sort of bomb and drop it on their ass, right? And then if you got hurt, like... good luck to you. You know what I mean? Like our medics in the military are fucking as good as they get, right? Plus we can call in a medevac. They come grab you and fucking take you wherever. And then you end up in Ramstein or whatever in Germany in a legitimate hospital if something bad happens. That's not what's going on.
Did anything bad happen when you went in 2016 to anyone that was, I don't know how much you can get into it, before you were there or while you were there? Did anyone?
So the Kurds, not any of our guys.
And you're side by side with the Kurds.
We are theirs. I was in the Peshmerga. I mean, they gave me a uniform and the patch and the whole thing.
And when you talk about the Kurds, they're pretty badass, right?
Dude, they're proud.
Yeah.
And they're proud of their region, even though they see themselves as a country. They're proud people. And I mean, their death would be the only thing that would allow for someone to take what they consider as theirs, right? And man, like I said, they were the only ones that stood back up against ISIS, and they are badass. They're crazy, in the good and the best possible way, right? But right when I left, it's like the timing was insane. Right when I left, people started trickling out because things did start slowing down with ISIS. Like it was, they were maintained into a little pocket, and it seems like no one was taking that land, and it seemed like they were doing it. I don't know. I have my own, thoughts on that, but we won't get into it. But like they kept them contained. They kept ISIS contained. But then they started taking us out on God knows what, and it's confusing because you don't speak their language. But so the Kurds have always been fighting for their region. They've always been in conflict with everybody else because there's the Shia, there's the Sunni, the Shia militia, and they were like,
where are they from?
Oil and water. So Shia and Sunni are two sects of the Muslims' religion. So in Iraq, Saddam was Sunni, right? Mm-hmm. And Shia, because the person who had the country. So there was issues there. And then I don't know which one Iran is, but they have Sunni and Shia any place they have Muslims for the most part. But they have a disagreement, I think, on who regained the throne when Muhammad died, which brother or whatever. I don't know, man. I don't know so much.
But they've been in constant conflict.
Constant. So and then the Kurds are more moderate Muslim, right? Like you go to the Kurdish regions, like the women aren't covered up from head to toe. Like they're like our America's, and do they love Americans over there? But they're just, they were Muslims without being intrusive about it, right? And they don't want that caliphate bullshit coming into their country.
They're Muslim, but not Sharia law Muslims, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so it sounds like there's more anxiety your first trip. There's more going on. There's more. I guess what was there? How much combat experience did you go through in 2016? So, like, what was that like? Whatever you can get into. Right. I know it's
So you actually brought up a good one. I would say the difference, besides terrain, of course, was the uncertainty of the second one. With the 82nd, I mean, it's organized. You know these guys inside and out. You've trained crazy with each other. You know the process of every single thing. If this happens, this person does this. It was fucking like clockwork, dude. Training day in and day out, especially before you leave. Excuse me. But you knew it, like there was again no there was everything. There's no uncertainty. Like if this happens. We're taken care of here. This person does. You get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Whereas Iraq, and this is where I say, like Iraq was like less cracking, I guess. But it was so fucking uncertain. You didn't know what would happen if anything. Plus, you don't know how these dudes move. Mm-hmm. And you're attached to them. They wouldn't train with us. It was a little different. But like we were responsible for our group, but we were still with them, right? And they were happy to have us. But dude, you don't know how they fight. And again, they're not training with you. So
like plus, the hand signals and all that stuff you
or
do.
Or the language, which dude, at the end of the day, when shit starts cracking off, you got to have a discussion. Like when you shoot and move, and shoot, move, communicate, right? And that was
shoot and move and
exactly. And that was what I would say was crazier to me about the situation in Iraq is if we got into a gunfight, like say it ever got really bad, and it didn't, but say it ever got like all the way bad, and we got to fight our way out of a city, say, or taking a village or something, bro. It would be like I give you a gun. Obviously, they're a little bit better trained, but like I give you a gun, and it's like let's go fight. over there, and it just ends up being a fucking brawl. There's no like you're going into this room, you're going into that building, like there's none of that. It's just like every man for themselves, just don't shoot the wrong person kind of shit. It's just, again, they fight different.
And when you went over there, was there ever a situation where you're like, damn, I wish I didn't do this? You're sitting there with a gun and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I should have went to my 2-month vacation in Aruba.
Should have stayed in Sweden.
Right.
It's cold, but better than bullets flinging at your head.
So no, I mean, you know me personally, both do. I'm pretty sure-footed, and even if I regret it, I'm stupid enough to convince myself that this is exactly where it should have been.
Yeah.
But like one of my buddies, like we're out, and this fucking Pesh dude just fucking fires off a round, just misses my other friend. It was an accidental discharge, but like they're running around with their finger on the trigger with their fucking gun off safe, almost shoots my buddy, and like.
You can't say anything to him because he doesn't understand.
I kicked the shit out of him. Yeah, they understand that. But that's
lesson had to be learned.
Yeah. And when I say kick the shit, I'm like, I didn't beat his ass. I kicked him literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to learn something, and I don't know how to voice it to you. And there was a couple guys in the Peshmerga that spoke our language, so it wasn't a complete language barrier. But come conflict, there was going to be a complete language barrier, So yeah.
But you were never out there, be like, this is really unsafe, unorganized. Like I shouldn't be all the time.
Yeah, but it was never it was unsafe, unorganized. I don't know what I'm doing. Where are we going? What does this involve? Like, you just don't know. But it was like that in the 82nd because they would take us out on shit. They'd give us an idea of what we're doing. But this thing would last for 6 fucking weeks. And at the end of the day, the top brass know what the fuck's going on. I know only so little. Now these guys, I feel like they were just going out. They were trying to save their home, and they were just doing it at any cost. But yeah, I felt like that every time we left the fucking wire. Like there's no telling what the fuck is gonna happen to us. But you know what? That's where my head, that's where I appreciate shit like that, right? I don't want it all the time. I love my comfortable, safe life now, but when you go do shit like that, you go do shit like that, right? And you kind of hope for the best, right?
Yeah. No, you mentioned something earlier talking about air support, and I was going to ask you this. I've seen movies. I've never been in wars before, but there was always the old sort of British Army thing of let's just put a bunch of people together, move in a line, and take the shots. The volley. Things changed over time as far as how we fight now. Are you mostly going in small groups into places, or are there ever large formations going out with armed forces, tanks, anything following behind you, or is it mostly smaller, 3, 4, 6 people? Just curious.
In Afghanistan, you go as a brigade or a battalion. A lot of people, hundreds, right? When you get there, we did do a battalion-sized operation. It's like Operation Mountain Lion or whatever, and but you needed a lot of people, and it was spread out. Then they had taken us, like I said, I won't get into the details, but
if you want
they took us. They took us.
We're trying to sell this thing.
I appreciate it. They did take us. They did take us as a platoon size element. The 30 people. They gave us Charlies, their infantrymen, but they do the mortars, right? And then we were attached to a group of operators, and we were essentially their guns. Because, they operate, they have their own intel, but we were theirs, right? So we're out in the middle of nowhere for almost 2 months as a platoon-size element.
Wow.
They dropped us our own cook. We were so far cut off for anything that they would come we'd let them know that we're out of ammo, or we need more of this, we need more of that. And then they'd Chinook it in and drop it off in the middle of the valley. We'd go out there with Humvees.
What'd you just say, Chinook?
Chinooks.
What is that?
Those are the dual prop helicopters.
Oh, and they drop in.
Yeah, they come in, they drop it, because we're on top of a hill. And all the space on top of that was utilized. So they drop it right down there at the bottom of the hill. We roll down there in Hiluxes, Humvees, whatever, pick up the shit. So they would, like I said, we weren't on a base. We were on our own little forward observation base. So sometimes, to answer your question, sometimes we moved in large elements. Sometimes we moved in small groups. I even did a couple squad patrols, right? Where it's just a special forces guy and me and my team, right? It's just a few people. just checking shit out or whatever.
And did you ever have to? And again, you don't have to answer this because I don't know. There's certain things you're not supposed to ask, right? And I'm the guy that asked that.
Yeah.
But like, as far did you ever engage with anything over there, like with ISIS? Was there any like back and forth? Like we're here, like
right? Yeah. Yes. But then that's where, like I said, the elements of these things. It was berm to berm for the most part. Mm-hmm. There was a couple incidents where we run into the city and do, but those city ones, I think we got away with, for the most part, shots were not fired. They basically hid their guns, and somehow the Kurds knew who the fuck they were. That's what I said. I don't know what was going on. We ended up with trucks full of people.
And they're all just saying we're not ISIS, we're not ISIS,
right.
but
and you don't know. You're like, is this guy ISIS or what? Like, no, he is. Like, okay, sure.
And then you don't know, like, okay, we detain you. Then I go this way, they go that way, and then I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they go with these.
Well, were they big with the suicide bombs and stuff like that?
The vehicle-borne IEDs.
Yeah, because that's what I'd be worried about. All these guys, with you, and it's like, wow, are they going to blow themselves up?
So they were huge on that. Yeah. You see some of these videos where they're just, it's barreling down on you, and you got these dudes like fucking 500 meters back, and they're closing in, and they're trying to shoot, but they have this vehicle so up armored that there's just little slits in the freaking, and they're trying to hit something, or it's, if you don't land some sort of rocket on them, these motherfuckers are going to make it to you, so you better brake, right? So they were regularly sent to different places, different parts. They didn't make it onto any of our bases, right?
And how far was your base from the line you talk about?
So we were in Kirkuk. Kirkuk was inland they drive very quickly. Mm-hmm. So speeding on the freeway, it took us about 15, 20 minutes to get to the line, but it's freeway, then you're off a dirt path, and then next thing you know it. Yeah. But like, that's where the shit got weird, is Shia manned the line as well. The Shia and Kirkuk, but the Shia and the Peshmerga headbutted like violently. As a matter of fact, the fucking Shia went into a Kurdish hospital and killed every single person. They ran in, killed everybody because they don't have guards at it, and it's like turf war. It's like B's and C's, right? And then they would the Kurds would go but see, we weren't, as far as we know, being used for these purposes. But then they'd go and do their own gangster shit. And that's what I said, it was just uncertain. That's when things started getting a little confusing, and it's like we should go. I think we've done our best, and I felt horrible, of course, when Iraq lost its land to the shit that so many of our men and women have given their lives for, right? So I felt like
I think we're back now, as you said, women.
Yeah.
Nice. I just you cut that.
I was waiting for the laugh there.
A lot of good men and a few chicks. A couple of chicks got in there too.
Right.
A couple of skirts.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So my hole had been filled for the most part, I mean, and like I said, I left there with the dog, and I was.
We gotta talk about. I want to before we talk about Ollie. Sorry. No, I want to talk about the bounty on your head. What is that all about? And is that still active?
No. I mean, as far as
you know.
So we were.
Damn it.
I actually have a letter.
Now we have bounties on our heads.
I was actually.
Forget about it, guys. Call them off. Call them off. It's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dog bounty hunter's going to jump through the door right now and take you.
Is he still alive?
Don't turn me on.
Right? I think
he's running around saying the N-word someplace.
Oh, yeah. You got caught for that. Yeah.
His hair's staying long on the back, I noticed. Not so much up the top, but yeah.
Okay, so obviously ISIS is the one that the only people that have a bounty on your head. How did you know about that? Was it you were over there, or when you came home? Who let you know that?
So we knew when we were over there that all Westerners had a bounty on their head. And I think... Dude, don't quote me. I want to say it started, it was like 100,000. But there was one guy, and he was at the first base we went to. He was like 6'7", tall, skinny string bean of a dude, bright blonde hair. I mean, this guy was fucking borderline fucking.
Like a pro surfer look, or like a North Tall. He'd be more like an NBA guy.
He looked like a giant post. He was just skinny, albino looking. Like
so, he stood out big time over there.
Yes, and so he became famous amongst ISIS. So his bounty was like 5 times whatever everyone else's was. Right. His head would poke out. It was just funny. Like,
kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty. So that was just
that's not cool. Like,
well,
no, that's awesome. Like,
it's
you're
cool
famous.
for me, dude.
That's what I'm
they're
saying.
gonna aim at, not me.
He's famous. You know what I mean? Just for being a tall albino guy. Like,
having
that's
a bounty
amazing.
on your head is not cool.
It's amazing.
Wow.
That I think it'd be cool as hell. If there was a bounty on my head, I would dude, that'd be awesome.
I'd be right. We'd be shaking at night, taking all kinds of antidepressants.
I'm not saying at the time. I'm saying after the fact. It's kind of cool. I had a bounty on my head, right? It's like we've talked about some of the things that we've been through. They weren't cool at the time, but after the fact, it's like, hey, it's kind of cool that right?
Yeah. But I mean, if you got a bounty on your head, you're probably doing something right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But when I got home, I had received messages because now we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. I'm talking to these Kurds, via whatever interpretation. We'd call each other, but then I got a message from the general who has actually their general is like their head. He's since been killed. As a matter of fact, when we left, because everyone was leaving slowly, one of our Westerners and the general got shot. Actually, both in the chest area. So I told you they never made it to our base. When we left, they made it to the base. I'm not saying it had anything to do with us, but the timing. So they got after it. They lost one of the Peshmerga guys.
So my buddy was shot. They came onto your base.
They tried. Yeah,
right after you left.
They breached. Yeah. Wow. Right after I left, and then it was soon after. But that general dude, he's amazing dude. He was married to that life, and then my other buddy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a Western guy. He was in the United States Army's infantry. He was an officer, and he was over there with us. He was really close with them. And he caught one here, I think-ish, or shoulder. And then Akam, the general dude, he was hit. And then he didn't die from that one. He died, actually this year, recently, a whole nother situation. But that was his life, So anyhow, that group, they stayed doing it, right? And since then, I stay looking at their freaking Instagram and Facebook. That's where we were. The Instagram, Facebook. I get a message saying, "Hey, look, ISIS didn't secure our area, but we had to leave because Iraq was taking their land back, right?" And then the Peshmerga left. The military, Iraqi military, was coming in. And during that time, ISIS used that period to try to take their land because the Pesh had abandoned it. And I guess they hadn't secured all the intel paperwork, whatever, on Western volunteers or whatever. And I guess my name was amongst the leaked documents to ISIS. And I got that letter from Akam, the general.
Directly from him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Saying, hey, you should be aware. Yeah, they had, and I don't know if there's any incidences, but like they have lone wolves. Like, remember the people that shot up the Paris newspaper for doing a joke about fucking Muslim shit, right? As far as we're concerned, those are lone wolves, right? So now we have a bigger bounty on our heads, and I got the letter from them, and then they wrote us kind of like a hall pass just in case, it didn't serve much of a purpose, but it was nice to have that in writing, on Peshmerga letterhead and shit. It was cool. See, I thought that was awesome, man. Man, I'm in America, bro. Like, I don't feel threatened here, over there, it's like, how far are these motherfuckers going to go? But it's kind of all part of it.
And so when did that bounty, did they say, hey, it's no longer, or is it still active?
Nah. So I don't know. I got the letter saying, I got the message and the letter. So they actually sent me an email, but they had sent me the original message saying, hey, we had to abandon this area. Your information was amongst a group that was leaked or whatever. So it started then, but like ISIS is still very much a thing.
Oop, fumble.
They're still very much a thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're not even noteworthy anymore.
Yeah.
You go months without seeing them, but our guys are still fighting them over there. You know what I mean?
So why the
So I don't know
question
what happened
that I
to it,
have?
to
I
answer
don't
your
know.
question.
I'm sure. I think Tim and I were talking a little bit about it. Like, why aren't more U.S. forces over there, and why do you have to sneak over there to fight for this? You know what I mean? Like, so you had all your buddies that pass away for this same reason, correct? And then they just abandoned it. So all that hard work, literally put their lives on the line, and they just gave it away, right? So why isn't the U.S. more involved? Do they know people are? They have to know people are over there. Why? And are they secret? I don't know what you can say, but are they funding it at all, or why isn't there people over there?
There's just a lot of shit above my pay grade, right? But ideally, when we took Iraq, it was to overthrow Saddam and give them democracy. You know what we do, and that was the idea. And eventually, it was going back to the people. And when Obama came in, you know, he came in under the understanding that he was going to give them back their country. He was going to wrap it up. But as we saw with Afghanistan, wrapping shit up too soon, you know, against generals' fucking orders, you know, people actually on the ground, they were more worried about their word or the actual action of than the actual, the proper way to do things, right? So they were just doing what he was just doing what he was voted to do, get us out of Iraq, right? And we were still there, you know, helping, but we weren't fighting, we weren't fucking securing. Again, very similar to Afghanistan as far as like, just stop fucking fighting. And then, but obviously we saw it happen. So you can go back to fighting, I guess, if you wanted to. Now, mind you, this is just my opinion, bro. I don't want to act like I'm some foreign affairs.
Yeah,
and
but
foreign
you were
policy.
over there. You were, you know, you were in it.
So yeah, but see, the United States government was no longer conducting operations, right? Like they would hold their ground if they were ever attacked, but ISIS knew better than to pick that fight. But dude, they rolled through Iraq. I think they took it in a fucking week. And our guys were told, don't do shit. I mean, as soon as we sat back and gave them Iraq their government back, which our generals had said they're not ready for, as soon as that happened, ISIS...
And they were waiting for it. They were just, they couldn't. But how many years were we over there before we decided like, okay, we're done. We're gonna basically retreat from this war. Like, how many years was it total?
So it wasn't so much a retreat as it was a stand down, right? But we were over there in 2003 was the initial invasion. And then ISIS took, and I'm not quite sure what year Obama pulled our combat operations or whatever.
Tim, you know what year that was?
No.
But it had been over 10 years.
So that was 2014.
Okay.
So it was 11 years. So
Yeah.
2014 was, I believe, if I remember correctly with my timeline, I think ISIS poured into Iraq pretty much immediately after America stood down. So that was 2014. That's when I got kicked the fuck out, right? Prevented from going. So, so that was 11 years. So they were over there conducting operations for 11 years.
So what should have happened? I mean, this is just a normal guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, excuse my stupidity and of the situation, but 11 years, right? Why couldn't we figure it out for 11 years how to do it correctly? You know what I mean? Is there any way, or do we just have to stay over there forever? Is that the...
I'm going to stay in my lane here, man.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean...
My opinion?
Your opinion.
I mean, you can't force... It's like lead the horse to water. You can't force... It was a perfect example of that. See, the thing is, you still have the Sunnis. You still have the Shias. And they don't want to coexist. They never have, man. Since Muhammad. I mean, it's always been and always will be an issue. And you start to see, and this is my opinion, you start to see how out of control that place became when they didn't have a fucking dictator ruling over them. Because he might have been ruthless. He gassed the Kurds. There's your weapons of mass destruction, motherfuckers. So that's like, he gassed the Kurds. He ran, he was a dictator. He ran both sides. Okay. Now, he got people in line. It's controversial to say, but like things were better.
They need structure.
Right.
Structure.
Right.
And they should have put someone in place.
But
I'm
not going to say it worked because it didn't work for
yeah.
half the fucking country.
Yeah.
As far as they were concerned,
They need some kind of structure, though.
they do.
Yeah.
They do. You look at fucking Yemen now, or Syria, Libya. Like they don't have dictators really anymore, and it's like, how you doing?
And
It's just a bunch of fucking fighting amongst each other, and
Yeah.
that's what you're going to get. Unfortunately, we've proven.
And it's frustrating for you because you lost buddies. You put your life on the line, and what is it all for?
And yeah, and I
frustrating,
appreciate that, dude. I really do. But I don't consider myself in any of it. It is.
Well, you should.
Yeah, but I feel for, like I saw it for myself. These people do not want to coexist, and we knew it. But when you're in the United States military, you are kind of cut off from that society, that civilization. You know, obviously nobody likes you, but over there, people of other groups don't like each other, right? So it actually, I would say it gave me, I don't know if this is, it gave me peace of mind to see that there's fucking nothing
You could do.
unless
you tried everything.
unless you gave everybody, like say you made, this is just a thought, but if you gave the Sunni half of Iraq and the Shia half of Iraq, or a third, and then gave the Kurds a third, then like that could work. But like
They'll still fight over who has the biggest third.
right?
You know?
Because oil's in certain regions
Yeah.
and whatever. So how do you do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to think of an example that's sort of similar to us, but it's like, why don't the government get involved with the Bloods and Crips battle? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to keep going on one way or the other. Let's say we eliminate all of the Bloods, we kill every single last one of them. Someone else is going to pop up, some other thing, and I think that's part of the problem. Like over in the Middle East, I think it was probably like, is it worth losing our guys over this fight that's going to continue no matter whose side is actually winning? Kind of let them fight it out, see who winds up in charge, and then try to infiltrate them, try to basically get, them on our side kind of thing. I think that's just the best way to go about it. Right. So it makes sense to me why they'd say stand down, but also be ready, because we might have to do something here. We might, depending on who wins,
Yeah.
And so, I was thinking too, like the American Civil War, I don't think anybody got involved from any other country. Like, let's just let them beat the crap out of each other, And so, but
let them do population control.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, why stop?
What do you mean, Ken? What does that mean?
Like, why are we going to go in there and fight these people when they're already fighting themselves? Let them take care of it themselves. And
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
And those are going to be those fucking America haters. We can't keep our issues to ourselves. It's like, yeah, well, we're giving you fucking food and weapons and everything else. We're going to get involved and you want us to stay out when you don't. It's like, dude, you can't make everybody happy all the time, right? Yeah. And then, also too, like for instance, Germany, the second time, took their fucking ass whooping, and we got things back to how we wanted it for the region, right?
Yeah.
There was no more Nazis, whatever. But like, they took well to the ass whooping as far as, certain things worked out after that. Yeah. Obviously, the whole situation was terrible. But like, Iraq was not going to take the ass whooping because there's no Iraq as a whole. You know, there is groups and groups and groups. And dude, like I said, if you don't have someone fucking keeping you in line via fear or some sort of crazy type leadership that I'm unaware of, then you're going to have an issue. And we've seen it. Yeah. I mean, we saw it with Saddam, and we did it at Gaddafi,
Yeah.
But again, like you said, I'll stay in my lane. I don't, foreign policies and shit, I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if anyone's, equipped or can talk about it, is someone that's gone over there and fought for it. I feel like you have every right to have your opinion.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And yeah, for sure. We all have, but you have a right to, as you do too.
Yeah, but not as much. I feel like
if you don't know a thing and you have an opinion, then kind of like shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like that's just entirely too many people like that. But like if you've done even if you've watched like 4 or 5 different sources and you've cross-referenced and cross-checked all your information and you've arrived at your own opinion. I mean, fuck, dude. Like, we can't rely on the news to give us what the fuck is real, right? Try something.
And when you came back, did the U.S. reach out to you after your second tour? Did they say thank you, or did they say don't go back there again? Or
the FBI stopped me coming into the country.
Wow. So again, this is your
coming
second time.
in, right? Because remember, Sweden dropped the leg, went to Iraq. We outstayed our welcome and Iraq. So when we left, we had an issue with customs because you're only allowed to stay in a country for a certain amount of time without a visa or whatever the fuck. So our interpreter, Chris Lifesay, the documentary guy, he walked us out of Iraq with the fucking videos and shit. And
where'd you guys go? Iraq to Sweden?
no,
Or Iraq?
okay. So once we did that, we just bought a one-way ticket back to America, and I think the layover was Egypt or some shit. But we're coming home, and there's nothing you could fucking do to stop us, right?
Yeah.
So like, first they tried to penalize us. The Kurdish fucking government tried to fucking penalize us for staying there past our amount of the time we were allotted. But the interpreter went in there and whatever, Hakan, he told them, dude, these are Americans that, risk their life to fucking help you out. And like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then they ended up, they're like, well, just give us a couple $100. Fucking Middle Eastern governments, man.
Yeah.
So the trip over back was great. But then when we flew into New York, which is the first stop, first destination, the DHS was waiting for us. And we came back 3 or 4 deep. It was me, Andrew, the initial guys that went over there, but a couple guys left with us. I think we're with 1 or 2 of them, if I recall. Definitely 1. But the 3 of us or 4 of us were walked from there to the back room someplace. And they're like, it was a Friday night, and we had 4 hours between that and the ride home. And I'm like, they're going to fucking do it again, man. We just wanted to go home, you know? And they had us down to the last minute, but they were waiting on the FBI. There was like, it's Friday night. It's going to be hard to get an FBI person. We can't let you go anywhere until you speak to the FBI. So as far as we knew, this was on Friday evening, Friday afternoon. And if they couldn't get anyone, as far as we knew, we'd be stuck there all fucking until the next time.
Yeah.
So just right on fucking schedule. The woman shows up. She was super cool. She's like, hey, I appreciate what you did. We know what you were doing. We have all faith that you meant well and whatever. While you're not allowed to just go over to other countries and start killing people, we understand that you were there helping. We don't know what you did. And if you're willing to give us some information, we're willing to hear it. If there's any contacts or connections that you could help us out with, that, and we all just, we don't know and everything. And they were like, that's fine. Here, give us your information, your email, your phone number. We'll contact you if we need anything else. And then from there, DHS actually really cool. They fucking ran us through from one terminal to the other, got us through the line, and we walked right on as they were closing.
Did they put you in first class?
Cool.
Nah, that would have been cool.
They should have upgraded you.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
So it was a crazy coming back. Then when I got back into SFO in San Francisco, there was no one waiting for us because we had already done our whatever.
Customs.
Yeah. And Ollie had to do the same thing. I have his Arabic paperwork. And then the paperwork, they transferred him over to, so he's like a citizen, right?
That's amazing.
But they did the same thing with Ollie. I mean, obviously they weren't fucking.
So you got to tell us about Ollie.
They put Ollie in a back room too and question him like, "What are you doing here?"
So
where did speak English yet?
Where did you meet Ollie? So you met him at the base out there, right?
The last base we went to.
Okay.
They
and tell us that story. Was he on the base or was he?
So before we were there, they were Westerners. They were out on patrol, right? And they saw this little fucking puppy wandering around, and man, Ollie is fucking. He was a cute ass puppy, just a big giant man child, right? Yeah. And they're like,
he's a German Shepherd, right?
So no, he's an Anatolian Shepherd mix, but he looks like a German Shepherd. Yeah. Like rather than tan and black, it's white and black, right? And when I first saw him, I thought husky German Shepherd, but then I'm also like, why are there huskies in the desert, and why are there German Shepherd unless they're working dogs? In which case they didn't have any. Yeah. So then I was reminded that the flock guardians over there, Anatolians, they're not neutered, so wild dogs will run into the fucking villages at night, fuck them, and then they'll go off. The female wild dogs will go out and have their fucking puppies. So you would drive around and you'd see wild dogs with little puppies falling by them. They're like little wolves, but they scavenge rather than So they saw this dog just going through trash as they're on a patrol through one of the areas. They grab them, throw them in the truck. Now, mind you, any third world country you go to, there's always going to be those dogs. They're just the dogs that they don't have owners. It's not like they have a fucking SPCA.
They stop in traffic and like, there's a dog on the loose.
And these dogs are mongrels to them. They don't keep dogs like we do.
Yeah.
Animals are for working and food, and that's it. Over there, I respect it, but they'll shoot a dog. Like, I mean, they tried that once around us, And that did not end well for the motherfucker who did it. He fucking shot at a puppy, dude. Yeah, they're just. But see, the thing is, they're just like
that's an animal that's going to take your food. That's going
right.
to do something. That's going to get in the way.
Disease
Yeah,
and gross and it's exactly
understandable. I don't agree with it, but it's understandable.
It's their culture, man, and we don't have to tell them what animals to like, right? They're not even eating. They're not eating pork.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is fucked up. I don't know. Either way,
bacon.
Yeah, I watched one of those documentaries on Netflix, and I will never eat any pork product ever after watching that. That's why I don't want to see anymore.
Because
I don't want to see one on cows. Or
More
I'm like,
for me.
Is it because of the treatment and how sweet pigs actually are?
Yeah, they're really smart.
They are.
And
it's
so
smarter than dogs.
Yeah, so they know what's going down. There's like families torn apart. I'm like, I'm never eating turkey bacon. I don't care about turkeys.
Yeah.
So I eat turkey. I don't eat pork after watching that. So when you say that about a dog, it's same thing.
Right.
Like, it's we just because it's okay to eat bacon.
Right.
It really isn't. If you look at the treatment of what pigs go through, and I don't want to sound like this crazy liberal,
but
I
get what you mean, man.
I watched
it's
it.
A fair
it's the
thought.
same, it's they're getting executed. They know what's going on, and same thing with cows. I just don't want to watch a documentary. I love In-N-Out too much.
Right.
But so it's I understand it's different out there, but we have our own thing too.
Right. Exactly. So I'm
you
saying
swoop
I
up the
understand
dog.
their perspective. I wouldn't bash it just because again our culture and our
it's understandable.
philosophy on things.
Yeah. What's a stray dog going to bring to this? Most likely something bad.
Well, the thing is like pigs in America, they're not like wild hogs. Like they serve one fucking purpose. Now you can make any motherfucking thing a pet if you want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Start
but
feeding
they're not pets here. They've been bred and raised to be our food. Yes, it sucks that they're as intelligent as they are, and cows have feelings too. But I'm not willing to.
Yeah.
Not
So they swoop up the puppy, Ollie, right?
So they do, yes. So they took him, threw him in because he was super cute. But there were, as I was saying, like roaming packs of dogs. So some particular dogs would break off into our little area, and we were super nice to them. So they'd hang out, but they weren't our dogs. We didn't give them shots. Some of these dogs, they're puppies, like they were getting parvo, dying horrible fucking deaths because it's kind of gross over there. The plumbing isn't the best, so there are these monsoons, so they drink the water and then catch something or whatever the fuck. But because they took on Ollie, they gave him shots right away. So there's a couple times I imagine we would have lost him had he not gotten those shots. No. And then we had another on-base dog. It was a German Shepherd that one of the British guys bought. I don't understand how it worked, but all the rest of them were wild dogs. But Ollie was ours. I mean, it had a freaking collar. He, like anytime we'd do a QRF, like if we got called up, we'd jump on the fucking truck and he'd like chase us off to the gate. And then the guys manning the gate knew that they were going to have to stop Ollie anytime we left. Even if we went to go shopping, they're all waiting there. So Ollie would try to follow us. We were his. And he actually drew, because we had a little chunk of the base that was the Westerners. He had drawn a line in the sand, like mentally. And the Iraqis would come hang out. The Peshmerga, we got along swimmingly, right? They'd get to that line and they knew better. They'd stop and Ollie would run up. But they would stop at that point. It was a mutual understanding. So then we'd walk out and they were all in eye shot. So we'd walk out, grab them. And then once we were with them, Ollie was like, cool, A couple of them, because they really didn't like dogs. They're like, fuck this fucking dog. That didn't work out well for him. They just walk on. Like, I'm not going to let this fucking dog determine whether I'm allowed here or not. All he did make sure that he knew that it was, in fact, his permission he needed.
Yeah.
And so did he just take to you right away? Like at night, did he sleep next to you? Or like what was how did that bond build?
Our connection was like he loved all the Westerners. Like we had a guy, Ash, he's a close friend of mine to this day. Like he'd provide medical attention. This guy was a well-rounded soldier for sure. But everyone had their own little connection to him. Some guys would go and make sure he was fed. We'd always feed him American food. We'd have the lentil soup or whatever the fuck. And we'd make sure he was fed all 3 meals. But we all had our own little thing. And he refused to be, I couldn't train him to do shit. When I got him back to America, he didn't know how to sit, stay, do anything. But what I would do in the evening after we ate, if I was on the base and relaxing, I'd wander the base. In the middle of the base, there's a giant hill, and you could see everywhere in every direction. You could see the freaking oil burning off and shit, and then the sun would set. It was gorgeous. But I'd take this walk every evening, watch this thing go down or whatever. Ollie started following me. So it was like, you could tell after dinner, he'd be sitting there staring at me like, when's it time for an adventure, right? Mm-hmm. And that became our fucking thing. And everyone had something with that dog, but that was our damn thing. The issue arose, and it wasn't like, I didn't get him because he liked me best. That was like not what happened. But one of the heads of our base, one of the first guys who had got in there, he was like, it's my dog, right? So like, I've had him the longest. Like he just basically claimed dibs. But I'm thinking, what are you doing to get him out of here? You know, like what contacts have you made? Like what have you done? And he's like, I'll just take care of it. But what I'm thinking in my head is, people say a lot and do a lot less. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna kind of under the radar start digging. And then I Googled it, how to get a dog out of a war zone and shit. And like one of the first things that popped up, and I'd like to plug them, SPCA International. So SPCAI was a nonprofit that has a program. Within the program, it's called Operation Baghdad Pups. And they sponsor military personnel, whether you're in, out, or related, and they will get your dogs back. Like when I went to this charity for them, there was a bunch of veterans and active duty. Like I was at the table with a Navy SEAL who had 4 dogs from 4 different deployments. Like every time you go there, and these people do it back. Every region has a representative, and you bring the dog to their region's representative. They quarantine them for you. They pay for the ticket. They fly with the dog, get off at every rest stop, because there's 13-hour layovers in Jordan and shit, right? They take care of everything. Then they get to New York, take care of the paperwork, and then they ship them right to your fucking. They send them right to SFO, and that's where that freaking viral video was.
So what happened as far as, what about that other guy? Was he just?
Oh yeah, that's right. So it came down to it where we're getting ready to leave, and everyone's starting to come as well. And I'm like, I did him one last favor. It's like, dude, like, have you done anything? Because if not, I have an option. I'm going first. By this time, I had spoken to SPCA International. They had sponsored me. They had taken the pictures, paperwork, and everything else. They had arranged for me to drop them off. I basically set it up so that I was going to take care of it. But what I did tell the guy, he's still a buddy of mine to this day. I told him, but he had, like I said, claimed dibs. I told him, like, look, I have a way out for this dog. You don't. So let me do this. Let me take him back with me, because they're going to quarantine him for a month anyways. By the time he's done quarantining, you guys may have not even left yet. I'm like, let me have him sent to me. And then when you get back from Iraq, he's yours. But I will guarantee him over. Yeah. Right? But now I'm kind of calling his bluff a little bit, because now you're going to get him back. But the thing is, I didn't tell you, I didn't guarantee the details. I'm a man of my word. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. However, the way in which I do it, if I don't specify, what he was like in Indiana or Idaho or Ohio, one of those motherfucking places.
An I state.
There was something somewhere. So my plan was, if you want a dog, drive out, grab him from California, drive back. Yeah. But then when I got home, I redid all my floors. I had because I had hardwood. I had them redone in Pergo. My fence was a little janky. Redid the fence. So I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, now I'm like,
I'm a dog dad.
Well, but the thing is, again, I'm also still a man of my word. Now, if you're gonna come get him, but here's the thing: I had to put up your dog, and I had to do all this shit to put your dog up. Yeah. So if push really came to shove, I was gonna be like, well, to take care of him, this is what I had to do. Yeah. If he was gonna come get him, I'd have given it to him. But you know what? He came back. He's like, I think he was just trying to test to see. He's like, hey, I'm back. What's up with Ollie? Like, he's all yours if you want him, dude. And then the video went viral or something at that point. And he's like, man, he goes, what would you think about keeping the dog? He would call me and check in on me. Like, it's like he wanted him, but he couldn't. He didn't. So he's like, what do you think about keeping him? I'm like, I appreciate it. You know? So it was his decision, right? It worked out.
So they picked up Ollie at what point when you took off?
So when we left the base, I had set up the handoff to the guy who was going to quarantine them in Erbil. So he flew into Solmanaya, flew out of Erbil, and our Westerners went with us. So they dropped us off at the hotel. They dropped us off at the hotel first, the Peshmerga, but then they had a separate guy. So the Westerners came, gave us hugs, goodbye, and then from there peeled off and dropped Ollie off at this guy's compound outside of the airport, like, or in the Erbil area.
Where he quarantines. For
Where he
months.
quarantines, it makes sure nobody goes into, like, he doesn't have any interaction that this guy doesn't know about. That's what quarantine is, right? And they feed him, but they make sure they monitor everything this dog does. And then at that point, he can fill out the paperwork saying he's been quarantined, that he's had his shots, and then that's how the freaking...
And then how long was there a gap between a month? And then so how was that a SFO? Because I would say you're a dog uncle or dog dad. I mean, those
many
are
times over.
Yeah, those are my kids, right?
Yeah.
And a month apart from one of my dogs. I mean, I go for vacation for a week, and I look at it, I'm like, damn, like, I can't imagine a month. And how was that? Like, just insane, right? And did people find out about? As you said, there's camera crews there. How did people find out about it?
So SPCA so it's not SPCA, it's SPCA International. They had contacted me and said they gave me the schedule. They let me know what they were doing, how they were doing it, right? So they're like, hey, we're going to have it here on this particular time. We are wondering, because press in this scenario would be amazing for our organization. Like, we're trying to reach out there. So how would you feel if we contacted some news sources like ABC, NBC, CSNBC, and CNN, whatever the fuck? They reached out to anyone that would listen. They told them the story, and people bit. So they asked me how I feel about actually doing interviews with people who showed up at the airport. And personally, I didn't want to do it, but there's no way in fucking hell that I would tell them no after they did everything that they did. And the amount of, I mean, I'd have gotten Ollie home my way if I had to, but dude, the process to do it right is insane.
Yeah.
So they did everything. There's no way I was going to tell them no after doing everything like that. And mind you, it's a nonprofit. They did it all free of charge. And it was a pretty penny to get that dog back. So I was like, no way. So totally okay with this. I was not going to say no. So they showed up. They showed up at the airport, and that's where they were. And
cool.
one of them followed me off. They're like, "We take him to your house?" It's something you're not going to know where I fucking live. I don't trust you people. Yeah. So they followed us to the park. But then there was, I think, 3 different sources there. NBC, CBS, whatever the fuck. One of them decided to post it on like YouTube and like make it a whole thing. So they actually took video and pictures from my Instagram, from my Facebook, and like, I don't know how they did it. I thought it was private, but they posted pictures that I didn't give them, that I didn't give them permission to use. But then they took the picture of me with my shirt off and used that as a cover story. So if you look up like Bay Area soldier saves dog Iraq or whatever, something along those lines, in like YouTube or Google, it pops that up.
Yeah.
But they pushed it, so it's theirs. I didn't sign anything, so all those millions of views, they get paid for.
Oh, that's
And so
But dude, that fucking dude, I'm so happy it worked out for them, because SPCAI got their name out there, and that's all I give a fuck
And so
about, dude.
how did it happen? Like, did you, where did you meet? Where was the interaction where you met Ollie at SFO?
So they've sent him right into the cargo hold. So there's SFO where human beings fly into, and then just south of there, like fucking quarter mile, you know how they have all those buildings along 101, and then
I've always wondered what they were there for.
So all of them, for the most part, most of them are some sort of commerce, some sort of shipping, whatever the fuck, or some sort of airport related shit. But one of them was a giant hold. It was a giant cargo bay, and dude, they actually let me in. They only let one of the camera crews in to follow, and so I saw him in his box. And Ollie is not an excitable dog, dude. This dog, since he was a puppy, it's like, if he gives you a tail wag, that is the fucking backflip version of what he's fucking capable of doing as far as excitement, right? But like, he did jump on me when he saw me, right? Which he had never done. I never been jumped on by him. But I took him home. Now mind you, at this point, he's untrained. He's 100, well, at the time, 70 pounds. Untrained dog. I taught him everything he learned. He ended up being a really fucking smart dog, like way smarter than I had imagined him being. Yeah. You know, and I tried not to get very close with him when I was in Iraq, because you just never motherfucking know. These dogs are dying like fucking, it was insane. So I know better. Plus, who knows where it's going to go or end up or how it's going to work.
Because you still had your buddy possibly taking him, so you don't want to be too attached. Right. But at this point,
exactly.
He's jumping on you, kissing you.
Once I had him, it was like cold dead hands. But again, you kind of know the guy wasn't willing to get him out of Iraq. If he wasn't willing to do that from his cot, like, you gonna drive across the motherfucking country and pick the dog up? Are you? Yeah. Okay. No. Right. But again, the guy was really cool about it. I wouldn't talk any shit, but it worked out perfectly. I live alone. I've been alone for a long motherfucking time. Having a dog, if you do it properly, is difficult, right? And I'm not one to leave my dog at home, leave it chained up. So he's since become a service dog, emotional support. But
he probably really is. Like, I mean,
all dogs are though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But you have a really legitimate, because everyone, it's my service dog, and they just want to travel with, but that's a legitimate. This guy went to war with me.
Right. One of these,
one of the battalion.
One of the bosses had, like, she had heard a complaint about my dog being in the car in the yard, and she's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna have HR okay this whole thing." So now he comes with me to work every single day. I normally leave him in the car until it got hot. Then I get in the car and do my surveys and whatnot. I do just meet customers and whatnot, and I just keep him in the truck. But it got to the point where, because that happened, she went to work. She went to bat for me. Had HR got involved, and she's like, he is now legitimately allowed to come into you with work every day. So now he comes with me to work every single day. Any day I go in the office building, he comes with me. Yeah. He's like, if I walk in without my dog, it's like,
where is he? What's up?
I'm not welcome anymore. Yeah. So it worked. Like I said, it could not have worked out better. But doing that alone, if you can't bring a dog everywhere, like, your dogs, they live for you, right? Like, you're lucky enough you have two dogs that enjoy each other, but all he doesn't have any freaking, like, no desire to interact with other dogs. Yeah. We have, anyways, you'll make anything work that you have the fucking energy to make work, or the intention to make work. And this actually could not have worked out better. As a matter of fact, I don't know, like, seriously, I don't know what the fuck I did with my time or my effort, my energy, or anything before I brought him back, man. It was, you guys get it.
Yeah.
And so they have the press is millions of views. They have you with your shirt off, all glistening, just
baby oil all rubbed up over him. Yeah.
He's just touching himself with puppies on his on his shoulder. What was it like as far as the female attention with that? I mean, you probably got all kinds of DMs.
I got a lot
messages
of from everything, like old sweet Karens and someone's grandma that hasn't quite figured out how Facebook works. As a matter of fact, I didn't have Instagram until that point. So everything I had done, say, to get into Iraq and everything else, had been via Facebook and email. So when I got there, someone, so I got hit up by a lot of different people, men, women, children. Well, not children.
Yeah.
Damn it. So one of the people that had messaged me was a woman starting her own nonprofit. And she's like, "Hey, I'd like for you to be she had already made the connection. She had already gotten the ball rolling. She's like, I want you to be the voice. I want you to come." She flew me out and did this whole fucking, like, money cat. It was a whole thing. I ended up leaving it for reasons I won't disclose, but I got a lot of cool attention from a lot of different walks of life. Like, I've had to block people from it. Like, I'd get harassed. Like, so I got a little bit of everything.
Well, the press, it's such a big thing. And what are they saying about you going out? Like, what do you mean he's at war? Like, we're not at war right now. Like, how is the press able to, like, did they just kind of turn a blind eye?
They made it all about the dog. Huh. They dropped all types of bullshit, like Army specialist, like, what, dude? Like, I told them I once was in the military, right? Like, but they made it seem like I was fucking Rambo and Ollie was my fucking war dog and shit. Ollie was, he was our base dog and shit. And
he was there with you. No, he was there every step of the way.
He was shooting
every step of the way.
ISIS.
Sniffing out IEDs. There's one right there, boss. Like, what?
And you know how they do. So that's why I was extra careful about what I let them near,
Yeah.
what I told them, but you know they're gonna do what they fucking do anyways. So they didn't, but I gave them nothing. But see, they actually attached a video from on that one of the segments of like a IED blowing right in front of one of our vehicles. Like I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
Like so they went and created their own fucking segment.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
It's got to be a story. You
Right.
gotta, I mean, yeah, but
Right.
no, that's amazing though. Just the whole thing, you know. And one of the things that kind of sticks out to me was you saying that you left when you did, basically because you were out of sick days, and then just a few days later, right? Is that when it happened where that base got hit? So I mean, if you had an extra few weeks of sick days, you would have been there when they got attacked, right?
So yes, but no.
Yeah.
But the reason I came back had nothing to do with my sick days. I was already out.
Okay.
And remember, my boss was covering all of the bosses were covering for me. The reason I left, it just perfectly coincided with my sick days. So the reason I left is without getting into too much detail, we were doing things that I started. We were wondering. It was like shady at best. Like, are they really taking us to do ISIS shit now? Because remember, they look and dress like everyone else. The regions they're taking us, the villages they're taking us into, the people they have us interacting with. Like, we have no way for sure but things started changing a little bit and things started slowing down. It just didn't feel right. And we were over there to mitigate the ISIS problem, not help them with civil war, not get in their beefs. I had an issue that I took fucking relatively personal, and I wanted to help with that. My buddy felt the same way. Most of those guys did too. There was a couple guys there, flat out, they're war tourists. Like they're just trying to get in conflict. They said they don't give a fuck where they go, who they
Tell
go
me
with.
to point my gun at.
They want to get in the funk.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, like I said, I had a kind of principle. I'm nothing against them. I think it's fucking cool, but
You just don't want to put your life on the line for something you don't believe
I don't
in.
want to lose everything, my job,
Yeah.
and shit that I just don't know anything about, right? But so the timing was just perfect. My buddy felt the same exact way, and as a matter of fact, we approached each other almost the exact same time. It's like, hey, yo, because we just gotten back from like this thing, and it's like, and so
Give him the nod.
Dude,
It's time to get out of here.
Yeah,
let's go. And then that kind of created a domino effect of people leaving. People stayed, but one guy, the officer, he became close friends with the guy that he got shot next to, and then the guy that ended up dying later on. But he was going back regularly to visit his friend, and also he was part of the Peshmerga, a very important part. So he went back. He kept going back, and shit was happening those times. But yeah, after I left, we had all been gone. I think all Westerners at that point were gone. That firefight took one Peshmerga and wounded a bunch of others.
Okay.
The American was just part of it. But the timing wasn't so much, I'm out of sick days, gotta go back. But to be honest with you, man, if we're out there getting doing the right thing and everything that I went out there to do,
Feels right.
You
You're
would've
gonna
stuck.
say,
Yeah.
I'd
around.
have thrown everything out there. And, worst comes to absolute worst, I reapply, or, I take my show on the road, right?
Yeah.
So,
So one thing I wanted to talk about, we deal with a lot of mental health stuff on we CTE, we have MMA, UFC guys on here, NFL guys. What is the after effects of going to war twice? And I know you're not a type of guy that's like, oh, poor me, but it's a real thing. I think it's, I've struggled with it on playing football, right? So I can't even imagine what you've gone through as far as taking a few hits to the head. It's a whole nother ball game when at any point you're basically on call to go put your life on the line. What are the after effects of that? There has to be, I know you've dealt with a lot of buddies that have passed away, couldn't handle it. How prevalent is that? And how is the Army and just armed forces in general, they have to know, obviously this is a real thing now over the years and years of what's going on. What is that like? Have you struggled with anything personal? That if you don't want to get too into it, but it's a real thing, though.
It 100% is, man. And this last time, like I said, it was pretty chill, man. It was also, I was a grown ass man. I was an adult. You got some of these kids going right out of high school, and getting put in back to back to back to back. And then they got to get out and transition into, society, which, dude, that transition in and of itself, because everything you left behind is put on hold until you get out. So like I left in the middle of college. I was 2 years into college. I left, came back, same fucking job plus everything else, right? And pick up right where I left off. Now I'm a veteran and I have a fucking cool resume, which actually ended up getting me my motherfucking job to begin with, right? So that worked out. But mentally, for me, getting out was a transition. Trying to pick up where I left off, realizing that nobody gave a shit. Time stood still, and having my friends still over there, still fighting the good fight, like that was wearing on me. And then, people coming back in body bags still, even after I get out, kind of shit. And fucking 14, 16 years later, still the same thing, kind of shit. So then that was a whole thing. And then, getting woken up by motherfuckers trying to kill you, obviously they're not in there with their fucking knives in the trenches kind of shit, but there are people trying to kill you, getting woken up in the middle of the night to it. That takes its toll. Like I said, I was fortunate enough. I don't feel like I feel like I got away relatively, like I can't tell you scot-free because that's not the truth, but I don't know if it's so much as like seeing what my friends are going through. 2013, I lost 3 guys to suicide. Yeah, one of which was my best friend. I appreciate it. So like a lot of that shit will take your mind off your own shit, right? Yeah. It's been, I try to do the VA help thing, not to talk shit, but it's not for everyone. They have a bunch of different, since I got out, there's a bunch of different therapies, different options. They're trying, right? I found myself being even more irritated leaving those things. Then they want to do group things. I'm not even trying to do all that. But again, I find most of my time and effort isn't so much on me. It's my friends, and I'm still very close. Like next week, and I'm going with about a soldier trip. Like we're in regular contact, so you never really feel all that alone. You never feel like you're that far away from the shit that no one else understands you did, right? So you feel a piece of your home is there with them, that they have and they understand, right? Like I said, I'm lucky I have amazing friends like you guys, and the structure I have at home, good family. Joining when I was a little bit older, and like I said, this last trip over there, dude, it was cake, dude. It was like we did anything we wanted to. It was cool. It was chill. So, and I was an adult. Do you realize how much having your mind matured and being set in your ways and not being as impressionable, experiencing anything like that, it's different. It is different than when you're a kid. And again, 17 years old, some of these kids are going in there. And
it's crazy.
That's their entire life, right? They'll deploy for fucking 10, 15 years, and you have officially spent half your life fighting in a combat zone, right? So like I said, I feel blessed. I do feel blessed to have come out of this unscathed and mentally, how about this, unscathed, relatively speaking, right?
Well, you were already a little off before you went to war.
Unscathed to begin with.
100%. And I've tried pulling that, like, well, what do you expect? And it's like, no, dude, no.
We knew him before he went to war. He was crazy before.
Yeah.
I can't blame shit.
This actually saned you up a little bit, so yeah.
Right. Well, so I'm like I said, I've worked on my own shit, and I constantly will, and God willing, until the day I die, I'll stay working on my own stuff, whether that shit happened or not. I'm constantly a work in progress.
But I feel on the positive side, like just with our friendships, right? It's a deeper friendship than just your everyday guy, because you've been through some shit, you've lost friends. So I feel like our friendship, when you say, "Hey, I love you, man," you give me a hug, I'm like, man, I really mean that. He really means that.
I do.
He could, he's lost so many people that it's just a different, more intense friendship that I've ever experienced. And I love it. I appreciate it. And I think there is some positives of it. I get, the guys I played football with, the travel, I never ever want to compare college football to the
I
military.
get exactly
And
what you're
yet
saying, bro.
there you are.
You are a team. You are a
Every
team.
time we talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, I was in a military unit.
So
No comparison, but it's that brotherhood.
But it's similar.
It is,
Yeah.
dude.
It's
It is
similar.
a group of people with the same intentions and the same passion.
times
Dude,
that by 1,000.
No, I don't like to do that.
But see,
I don't
yeah.
like. I mean, the thing is, dude, you could feel that way about your chess club, dude. You know what I mean? It's your intention, it's your thoughts and your feelings, dude.
Yeah.
You know, my whole family's and I got friends, San Francisco firemen, all the way to SAC and whatnot. And dude, like. That's its own brotherhood in and of itself. Like there's like I don't get to compare any of these things. I'm not gonna say mine's any stronger than anyone
Well,
else's.
you should, because I'm playing football. We're trying to win a game, not put our lives literally on the line.
There is a big difference
I know
there.
plenty
Huge
of
difference,
people
yeah.
from the military that don't feel any connection with people. Like they picked up and they'd go to the next unit and not call a single fucking person they had been deployed with.
They just want to do their time and get out of there.
There's a
whatever,
couple of people where I had to pick up the ball and get it rolling because like they're just on to the next chapter and they have zero thought about what they had done, which might be a defense mechanism,
Or maybe they don't want to remember it.
right?
Yeah.
Actually,
Just push that way down.
right?
Yep.
And then 10 years later,
Right.
they just, it all comes out.
So to them, their connection doesn't mean shit, or it does, and it means something bad, or there's a connection and it's negative, right? But so some people it means a lot. To me, it means a lot, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably going to be people on your team that were like, "Fuck this, I don't care, I'm out," and then they don't talk to anyone ever again. No one wants to talk to them. It's very much the same in that sense, right?
And we have the CTE thing that's big in the
Yes.
football world. So I've had, 5 or 6 teammates call me with a gun on their lap. Like I've been in that situation.
Yeah.
And
Junior Seau did some shit.
there's been so many guys that have done that and struggled with it. But I feel like, you can't, I know you say you can compare, but you can't. That amount of anxiety of going to a foreign country and fighting for your lives compared to going to Southern California and playing a football game, obviously. But I feel the CTE thing, there is that anxiety, the depression, the suicidal thoughts. That is something similar that you've dealt with your war buddies, that I've dealt with my teammates, and it's a real thing. We got to close here pretty soon, but
this is fun, man. I'm proud of you guys.
Yeah, thank you. But one question I want to ask, doing all that you did, right, and fighting over there, going back there a second time, a different scenario, would you do it all again, knowing that they were just going to basically give it right back?
Yep.
If you look back, you're like, is there any regrets?
Nope, none. I'll tell you, I have regrets, but it's unrelated to the things I did. I would tell you a majority of my regrets are things I didn't do, some guilt that I feel, like I said, I got out and people stayed in and they just kept doing deployments, and I'm living this fucking fantastic cush life and shit. I got a knee surgery while I was in the military after that deployment, and it fucked up my knee forever. It feels better now, but it's like how bad it was. And then all the fixing, there's a lot of things that I did that I regret, but doing the actual work, joining the actual group, meeting the people I was with, experiencing the things I have, there's zero. Like I said, if there's any regret, it's because I didn't do more of it. I didn't make myself more readily available to my brothers, getting out and doing that comfy thing,
Well, I think
it leaves a little bit of guilt on you,
I think you made up for it, going back 10 years later for
that was the
free,
intention.
losing everything. I think that was probably weighing on you. Like, I got to put in my.
It lifted a load, bro. It really did. It really fucking did. It was amazing. You don't even realize how much is dangling over you until you fucking cut that cord, right?
Yeah, I'm just glad that load was able to get shot by you. That was that's what you needed.
I don't know what you need.
All over my head.
Lifted that load, man. Just
well, on that note, we thank you for coming on. We're proud of you. I tell the story to all my friends. I'm like, oh, I got a badass friend. I'm like, oh yeah, my friend went to go fight for free.
Yeah.
Take that. He went to go fight ISIS for free. Do you have a friend like that? Don't think so.
How funny is it that you're comparing your friends, not each other, right? Like, oh, my dad could beat up your dad.
Right.
I'm like, wow, that's really cool.
Hey, you know what,
Cool
though?
story, bro.
I'm super proud of my fucking friends. I appreciate him saying that, and I get what you're doing.
Yeah.
But dude, like I think there's the saying, we're all the sum of our accumulated friends, or whatever the fuck. Basically, we all reflect our friends, and the things that my friends have done, the things my friends are doing, the people they are, man. I take a step back and I kind of pat myself on the back a little bit.
Right.
Like, these are the people that are dude, my friends are my family, bro. Like, they couldn't be further from the truth that friends are family. I don't need blood. This is an exact example of that, man. And I'm proud of you guys, dude. I'm proud of him. It's just like, I'm lucky to know you guys. It's the same thing. And that's, I think it's a beautiful thing to have friends worth a fuck. That it's like, people aren't like, my friend fucking, I don't want to belittle anyone else's job, but my friend, does this over here and no one gives a shit, right? Or they're fucking narcissistic sociopaths. Like, no one's proud of that person, right? So I'm lucky enough to have, people that I'm proud of and can brag about. So I appreciate you saying that, and I feel exactly the same way with you guys. I appreciate it.
Love you, bro.
Love you guys.
Well, 2 bees in a pod. Join the buzz. We get the little stinger out here. And
Buzz it, baby.
If you're still listening to this, which you have to have this incredible story, please subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. Share. But we appreciate Ken Wyrsch coming on the 2 Bees in a Bod podcast. Did I just say 2 Bees?
You said 2 bees in a bod.
I'm the bod.
I said 2 Bees in.
Am I the
Well,
bod?
I was getting that mental image of you with your shirt off,
2 bees in that bod.
just all glistening
hot
with your
bod.
puppies. But we thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time, and thank you everyone listening. 2 Bees in a Pod. We are out.
We're good. Thanks
Join
again.
the buzz. Give them the stinger. Get it? Stinger.
Stinger.
2 bees.
Give 'em the stinger.
2 bees in a pod. Bzz.
I'm so happy that you explained that to me.
Right in the hive.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you, and we'll be back next week with. I don't think we can top this, but we're gonna try.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching 2 Bees in a Pod. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and thank you for all the love and support.